the most popular morning podcast on Magic the Gathering. That's not actually a podcast. This is not a podcast, people. I'm just I'm only a Twitch streamer, all right? I'm only a Twitch streamer. But that's okay. We can still act like it is a podcast. Welcome to Coffee and MTG, where we discuss Magic the Gathering. If you got questions, need answers, leave them in the chat. 3 question marks before the question, 3 question marks after the question, or just at me at Nikachu MTG, and let's have some great conversation today. And don't forget that the second half is deck list review. We always do deck list review, and if you want your deck list, get some feedback, take it to the next level, make sure you are here live to submit it to get that feedback. I'm getting a lot of deck lists offline. Everyone's like, Nikachu, can you review? Can you look at my list? Can you look at my list? I understand everyone wants some feedback. You got to be on the show. This is where I dedicate my time to all of you to give you that value. And if you want a chance, you got to be here live. So thank you very much, everyone who does show up. We know Grim Ducky is always here. Rugged MTG always here for the Morning Fish fam. 2 a.m. where I am. Hot chocolate. You must be somewhere in Asia or something, because that's the only way you would be like 15 hours ahead of me, or I guess 13 hours. Absolutely. So hey, you know what? If you're a night owl and you need to, like, stay up a little bit later, grab a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and let's have some great discussion before you go to bed. But to everybody else, good day, Cactusovishmok. Hello, Arcane Mystic. Hacha. No, Australia, Victoria. Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. You're on that side of the equator. Simic Atlantis. Good morning. Good morning, Dire Wolf. Good morning, Arcane Mystic. Oh, yes, the Sydney here. All right. We've got a lot of people from Australia. Very, very popular. Niels Nielsen. Good morning. So yes, if you got any questions, comments, want to talk Magic, leave your comment in the chat box with at Nikachu MTG, and let us discuss some stuff today. And so, like, one thing I could start the conversation off with is my top 10 modern decks to beat is coming out today. And let me tell you, there's a lot of red decks in that top 10 modern decks to beat, most likely because Blood Moon is such a high influence now. Now that Arkham's Astrolabe has been banned, we're seeing a lot more decks either red-based or splashing red in some capacity in this metagame. And Grim Ducky's like, F prowess. F prowess. You know what? I just saw a Twitter post that was like, reprint chill, you cowards. I would love chill in modern. There's no way this is ever going to get printed in there's not a chance in hell that this card would get printed in standard, but in maybe a Modern Horizon set, maybe. I don't know if they would ever want to do something like this. Chill is a blue in a generic and just says red spells cost an additional 2 to play. So good luck, Manamorphosed, with that one. You're not going to be so free anymore. You cost 4 mana. You'll be 4 mana to gain 2 mana. That is not where you want to be when you're playing with Manamorphose. Chill would instantly stabilize against all the super efficient red decks in the modern metagame right now. I think this is modern playable. Like, this card barely sees play in Legacy. I would love to see more of the cards that don't get any love in Legacy. Things like Counterspell, things like Chill, move its way to modern. Definitely would like to see it. See, like, I would also like cards like, as being suggested here, Back to Basics. And it's hard for me to tell if this is a good fit for modern, especially, like I said, already sees a lot of Legacy play in a variety of archetypes. Also, I have a feeling that the control decks, which are already pretty good, would get even better with Back to Basics, because they would just go like, it would basically be like a Blue Moon that control has, that control can play. I mean, I would love Back to Basics in modern, but like I said, I think it is a better fit or easier to reprint cards that don't see Legacy play, and therefore maybe they're not good enough for Legacy, but could definitely see play in modern. So anyway, Chill. Let's take a better look at that. Oh my god. If, like, I didn't play during the Tempest era, but I definitely played in an era where of Extended where Chill actually did see some play, so I'm really happy. I have good feelings looking at this card. Very good feelings. I'm surprised it's not double blue. They screwed up the casting cost. This is a huge hoser. This should be definitely double blue. I was looking for this the other day, looking up double blue enchantments. I'm like, where's Chill? Where is Chill? Lo and behold, I forgot that it's actually a blue and a single in a generic. So maybe this is a great way that we could like start a conversation. What cards would you love to see play in Modern that is from Legacy that does not, or like is Legacy playable but does not see play in Legacy and might be a good fit for Modern? Things like Counterspell barely sees play in Legacy. Chill barely sees play in Legacy, but would be a good fit for Modern. Would love to hear some feedback, other people's opinions on this. Good morning, Kyoka620. Good morning, Shambly. Yeah, exactly. Reprint the Counterspell. Counterspell is a fantastic example. Arcane Mystic says, this is a bit of a different question. So it's a very big question. I'm getting cut off here. I feel like, what's it called? The Al from Home Improvement. Is that what it is? The guy behind the fence? So this is a bit of a different question. Maybe not the kind of thing we want to dive into here, but I'll just ask and see if it's up to you. So I've just been feeling really down on Magic lately with the pandemic. I've obviously been unable to play in paper, and Moto Arena just don't do it for me. I need that social interaction. I'm considering selling out of Merfolk altogether. I'm wondering how you stay positive when paper Magic isn't happening. So one thing that makes it easier for me, and I definitely have a big advantage in this case, is I play online, so I can get my Magic fix better online because I play less. I play more Magic for an academic, more of a athletic level. I play it less for a medium to socialize with other people, because if you want that, I would highly suggest that you keep creating a play group and maybe find EDH. And that's sort of what my friends are doing right now. They're not in love with online, but they do play in paper. And so now once in a blue moon, like once every month, we get together and play. We play the pony format, EDH. So maybe that is something that you want to that you should consider. And well, the thing about, and I know you're saying selling out of Merfolk altogether, but I think a lot of people are put in a position where they feel like they want to sell out of their cards because, like, what? Hey, these cards have value. I could sell them for money. I'm not using them. Why not sell out of it? I would tell you there was a great Reddit thread about it wasn't like the biggest mistakes. It was, if you could tell your past self one piece of advice, what would it be? And the single most popular answer that was said by many people is don't sell your cards. Because in the moment you feel like, I don't want my cards. They're useless. But the problem is you're going to sell them, and believe it or not, 1.5 years or 2 years from now is going to go by in a flash. And then all of a sudden, okay, you want to play paper Magic. You want to get back into Magic. Oh my God, I sold my cards when they were cheap and now they're really expensive because everyone's getting back into paper, and now you deeply regret it. The single largest regret people have is when they sell their collection, they sell their cards. So whenever I get approached by someone who's like, I want to get out of Magic, take a break from Magic, do something else. That is totally fine. That is totally fair. But I would highly recommend that you do not sell the cards. If you don't play Magic for 10 years, okay, sell the cards at that point. But a lot of people get into the mode of taking breaks from Magic, but they don't actually permanently quit. They keep coming back. And by the time they come back, the cards inflate in price, and now they're in a worse spot than they were before if they had just put it in a shoe box and then waited it out. So anyway, that would be my recommendation for you or anybody else in that position. Especially if you're not financially hurting for money, like if you don't need the money that badly, just because paper Magic will come back. I promise you, it's going to come back. The pandemic, eventually there's going to be a vaccine. This whole thing is going to be over. Eventually, we got to wait it out though. So, anyway, if anyone else has any comments or thoughts about that, would love to hear it. I sold my cards in 1997 because I was in high school and needed the money for other interests. Now I do not sell cards anymore. Imagine I sold Force of Will for $3 each. Yeah, and I bought Force of Wills a long time ago for $2 each, and I'm pretty sure I threw them in the garbage because I didn't think they would be worth anything like 10, 15, 20 years later. because I had some like back in the year 2000. Like I kept the rares, and I basically got rid of all the commons and uncommons, and Force Will back then was an uncommon and wasn't really worth that much. So it's unfortunate. The value of Magic cards over time, basically goes up, even with reprints. We're seeing reprints are not pushing cards. They temporarily push the card price down, but in the long run, as Magic keeps getting more popular, the prices all keep rising. So we got some feedback here. Counterspell should be in Modern. Would love Counterspell. Razor, yeah, Tidal Warrior wouldn't be too bad. I don't know about the Razorfin Hunter. Yeah. Tepelasov says, always perfect time for this podcast, getting home from work right now. I know I'm the most popular podcast that's not actually a podcast. And Des Machen says, what do you think of 8-Rack? Is it a meme? Could a Rakdos version with Kroxa give it a push or stay mono black? Definitely, Rakdos could be a way of taking the deck, and splashing red right now in this Blood Moon metagame is not a huge risk, because if your opponent plays Blood Moon, you can use the mana. So it's not that bad. I don't think 8-Rack is a meme. I think it is an underrepresented deck. I also think it's a very misplayed deck, because a lot of people want to push for Ensnaring Bridge in that sort of archetype. I really don't like it when I've seen the most successful versions of 8-Rack that I've seen did not play Ensnaring Bridge. Just to put it out there. So when people are like, oh, the very, very old versions played Ensnaring Bridge, I love the idea of locking my opponent out, but it doesn't lock the opponent out. Almost every single deck that loses to Ensnaring Bridge has an answer to it. So you just might as well use that Ensnaring. The Ensnaring Bridge slot should be something else. I think it's an underrepresented deck, and definitely can be a deck in Modern, but it's like one of those fringe decks that needs to be worked on. But I definitely would say Kroxa is definitely a good idea in that archetype. Yeah, I'm Wilson. I was Wilson. Okio is like, what about gain control of up to 2 target mountains for 3 mana? I don't understand the question. So hold on, let's see if anyone did have any feedback about selling out or anything like that. Thanks, dude. That's good advice. I really appreciate your thoughtful answer. You're welcome. Do you ever think Branchwalker will come back? Maybe, but probably not. Maybe in some world where a lot of lands are worth really good value, like a lot of Horizon lands, new creature lands, maybe Branchwalker can come back, because the lands you draw are just as valuable as creatures and other threats. I just love this Coffee and MTG content. Such a great format. Oh, and with that, we better get into the Magic arena, because I'm still in like talk shows and podcasts. Absolutely not. We are a Magic. This is a Magic content channel. Get back to the Magic, where all the other Magic players are. Definitely. Good morning, Rodent. Shambly 1. Is Magic the Gathering Online worth it right now? I really enjoy deck building and testing in Modern, but I can't get around the idea of paying for online versions of cards. Should I just buy the bullet during COVID? So first off, yes. And the thing is, so I understand your fear of buying into like online versions of cards you already own. So some people don't really like the idea of buying into a second deck. First off, I do think it's worth it to buy the second deck. But if you feel awkward about that, that it ties up too much of your money, we can like start off by, announcing one of my sponsors, Mana Traders. So what Mana Traders does is it basically lets you play any deck, any format, anytime. You want to play Standard, you want to play Pioneer, you want to play Modern, you want to play Legacy. Rental services like Mana Traders allow you to play basically anything. And also, by the way, if you are one of those people that are scared that Magic the Gathering Online could just collapse and then they're only going to go into Arena, well, then you didn't invest in any cards and you still had access to the entire card pool with something like Mana Traders. So yeah, Mana Traders, these rental services are really fantastic for anybody who is fearful about buying into any particular deck, or you want to play multiple decks, or you want to always play the best deck in the metagame. So anyway, you could try a rental service and see if that's for you. And you could try and then see if you want to you can even use the rental service temporarily just to see if there is a deck that you want to play, and or if Magic the Gathering Online is for you. And if it's not, then you just walk away from everything and you don't invest too much into it. So anyway, don't forget you can get 20% off your first 3 months with coupon code Nikachu. Now with that, let's give a shout out to my other sponsor, themanabase.com, your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. And the Manabase is also sponsored by Fusion Gaming Online, and I believe that they still have their sale right now. They always have a weekly sale, so it's always a good idea to check out Fusion Gaming Online, and they have 15% off all time Spiral block singles. So I mean, if you need to get your Tarmogoyfs, your Ancestral Visions, Lord of Atlantis, and look, they have all the staples here. You can go check out Fusion Gaming Online. Remember, it is in Canadian prices, so don't freak out like, what, this is all overpriced. It's because, the Canadian dollar is not the same value as the American dollar. So just keep that in mind when you're checking out the site. Remember, Fusion Gaming Online. Do they have their name anywhere here? Not really. You can also get other stuff here. I don't look at their Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. I only pay attention. My favorite local game store, Fusion Gaming Online. So I hope that's helpful. But personally, for me, I love Magic Gathering Online because I can play anytime and I can get as much practice as I want anytime. Social interactivity is very low though, so it's not quite the same as your local game store. Tuxtab also mentions they also carefully manage the EV of reprint sets. Yeah, they do a pretty good job of that. So unless there was a card that was in pretty high demand because there was no cards of it basically in existence, usually the reprints still maintain a good chunk of their value. Just temporarily, when they reprint cards, it goes down, but eventually it all goes back up. Unless it's been reprinted, hammered a million times. I mean, look at that. They've already reprinted. I guess I can't say that they've reprinted Fetchlands a million times, but Fetchlands have seen reprints and are still pretty expensive. Hey, Nikachu, what do you think about Modern Dredge? Very, very powerful deck. I think very high variance. You're either going to crush the tournament or you're going to do miserable because you're going to be helpless against sideboard cards. Dredge is definitely if you want to win a tournament, Dredge is a very good choice to try. Just understand that you will get annihilated every so often because you may not be able to fight the graveyard hate. But you keep playing Dredge for the tournament where everyone forgot about their graveyard hate, decided not to be prepared for graveyard decks like Dredge, or maybe enough Dredge decks have disappeared. But you did not disappear. They put their sideboard cards away and you just destroy the tournament. When Dredge does well, if there's a lot of Dredge decks filling up the top half of really big open events, I think Dredge is a good deck to get into. Dredge also might be a good deck to always have around, just like Affinity. There was a lot of pros that had Affinity around because if they felt like they wanted to time it at the right moment, they would play Affinity, and it gave you a lot of free wins and would annihilate a tournament if no one had Artifact hate, and that's what Dredge is just basically the modern Affinity right now. How did yesterday's league went? We know what? We ran really bad. And we went 1-4. We lost every die roll, and in 2 matches against Bogles and well, maybe we can't say the same about Bogles, but against Red Green Pond, because we played with Treasure Hunt. Spoiler alert. So I played with Treasure Hunt, the Treasure Hunt deck. Basically, it's a deck that you Treasure Hunt. The deck is just full of lands, and you Treasure Hunt into Treasure Hunt into Treasure Hunt, draw your entire deck of lands, then play Thassa's Oracle and win. We almost beat Red Green Ponza, but lost because they top decked a land. We knew they were choked on lands. We ghost quartered one of their lands with the Utopia Sprawl. They were choked on lands, but then they boiled us, and then we lost. But we were really close to winning that match, and then we lost to Bogles because we were on the draw, not on the play. That was totally die roll dependent. We did win one match against something, I can't remember. And well, anyway, that's how it went. I'm not going to explore the deck any further, but I think it had game. I think we ran really... It sucks to be on the draw 5 matches in a row with a Treasure Hunt deck. I'll just say that much right now. Would Legacy cantrips be too good in Modern? That's a matter of opinion. There's a lot of people that think, yeah, they are too good. They should do not unban Ponder, do not unban Preordain. in my opinion, I think the cantrips are fine. I have no problem with cantrips. The old classic debate was that it made Storm too consistent, but I think these days that doesn't even matter. There's so many hate cards for Storm, it like just does not matter whatsoever. And yeah, so I'm of the opinion that it doesn't matter. I do not care. You know, your control decks can have a million cantrips. I am much more concerned about the cards you're digging for. I'm not against. I'm not one of the people that was against Ancient Stirrings. I'm not one of those people. I'm against the particular cards that you can find with Ancient Stirrings. So anyway, that's my take. Not everyone is like that though. There's a lot of people that are against consistency, and so you know that it's the battle between those two. Quick vote: who's for cantrips and consistency? Who's against cantrips and consistency? You know, quick vote. I mean, a lot of people think Ancient Stirrings should have been banned, and if you ban Ancient Stirrings, then I think obviously you got to keep all the other cantrips banned. But if you keep Ancient Stirrings off, to be fair, Ancient Stirrings doesn't see a lot of play right now. So maybe we could have a quick vote. What do you think about the consistency? Cantrips good, 4-ups. Oh, that's interesting. Cantrips good, 4-ups bad. Fan of 2x Modern right there. I actually really enjoyed Into. Oh, you mean Once Upon a Time? Yeah, Once Upon. I love the name that you created here. Into the Story. Once Upon a Time. Now that one I'm not for. I don't like 0 mana spells. I think that one was a bad one. But if you invest mana to look for what you want, I think you paid for it, in my opinion. I mean, so long as it isn't looking 10 cards deep or whatever. Yeah, so Hot Chocolate is 4 cantrips for the consistency. So I am against Once Upon a Time just because I am against 0 mana spells strictly. I don't think anything should be free. I think that's always the route to things getting broken. Broccoliosaurus says, if Stirrings is okay, then I want looting back. Now, looting is a bit of a different story because it enables graveyard decks in way too good of a manner, to the point where it is very comparable to like Ancestral Recall, because you can put stuff in the graveyard that's just going to come back onto the battlefield. I think that there should be a higher cost, or at the very least, it shouldn't even have flashback to putting cards into the graveyard. So I think that cantrip is very unique and for a different discussion, because you invest 1 mana right now, but depending the stuff that you put in the graveyard, that stuff will come back free, and especially starting that off on turn 1, that's a bit awkward. Cantrips, we have people for cantrips. And hit too many things. Stirring only get colorless is way more narrow. That's a debate in itself. Some people say, it is narrow, but at the same time, in an artifact deck, I mean, it's not narrow. It's exactly what an artifact deck wants. Looting is better gone for good. I feel like Ancient Stirrings is fair because of the colorless restriction. I'm afraid that the likes of Ponder and Brainstorm are too generic. That's, you know what? Okay, so let's talk about that. Is it too restricting? Because Ancient Stirrings, honestly, was like I think one of the most popular cantrips. It saw playing like Lantern Control, Clark Clan Ironworks, Hardened Scales Affinity, sees play in Tron. So it actually sees play. It might see play more than what Ponder would in the modern metagame. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll create more archetypes now that Ponder exists. But I think Ponder might only be seen in. It would be seen in Storm. Would seem in play in Stoneblade and Control. But what else? Because Ancient Stirrings was played in every deck that utilized colorless cards, every single one. And I'm not entirely sure Ponder would see play in every single deck that plays blue. I don't think Spirits would pick it up. Merfolk won't pick it up. It's not clear to me that. I mean, if Death Shadow is playing Serum Visions, then they'll definitely play. They'll definitely play Ponder. I dislike that Stirrings is in the format while Ponder and Preordain aren't. Feel like it should be all or none. Looting is an Ancestral Recall stapled to a Dark Ritual. That is not too bad of a comparison, especially since if you put things like Arc-like Phoenix into the graveyard and they come back, that's just basically free. So, but like that's a ton of mana. I mean, it's more than Dark Ritual, right? The fact that Ancient Stirrings can find a land is gross. But so does a lot of cantrips. If I can get anything from Legacy, I'd prefer Counterspell. All right, Shock Onion. Would you love it when Merfolk gets something like Snoop when everyone would play Merfolk, or do you like to be one of the few who play it very well? I would prefer everyone was playing Merfolk. I don't I am much happier that like everyone is playing Merfolk and it's considered a top deck, blah blah blah. I prefer that it wasn't like this niche underground deck that's like difficult to pilot. It would be nice that there was a little bit more power to it that a lot of other people can appreciate it. I'm okay with Ponder, but not okay with Brainstorm in Modern. Well, the thing is, Brainstorm was never in Modern. It was never in the card pool. I think the last reprint of it was in Mercadian Masks. So, but Ponder is in the card pool, and it's banned. So that's the difference. So it's in like an M10 or something like that. So Ponder is definitely in the format. See, there's a bunch of questions that were asked. Let's get back to some of them. Do you have any news on the Winnipeg paper scene? Just thinking about the Fusion 5K. I'm thinking about the Fusion 5K too, but it's going to be all locked down still. I don't think there's not going to be any paper event. Probably it's going to get very, very likely it's just going to be canceled this year. So just got to wait for that vaccine, and hopefully it'll be there next year. Whatever. Everyone, a year goes by like that. So you just have to preoccupy yourself until then. I look back on my life. I can't believe what I did like 10 years ago. I can't believe 10 years has passed since my last what I was doing. Even I can't even believe that I've been doing this YouTube channel for like 6 or 7 years. So time goes by in an instant. Do not underestimate the passing of time. Hot Chocolate is like, how do you feel about Hasbro breaking their promise on the reserve list in 2002 when they reprinted commons/uncommons that were on reserve list, like Force of Will, Lightning Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, etc., after the promise was there for 6 years? So I'm not familiar with the history of the reserved list. I didn't know that Force of Will was even on it. Also, a Lightning Bolt, was that on the reserve list? That seems, I don't know if Lightning Bolt was even on the reserve list. Maybe it was, but they reprinted that thing a million times. I don't know if any of those cards were on the reserve list. So, but they did regade on their promise before. They reprinted, I believe, Mox Diamond. They also reprinted stuff like Masticore, which doesn't see any play whatsoever. So my take on this, this is a purely legal problem. And a lot of people like to pout out that, a lot of lawyers say that because the one thing holding it back is something called promissory estoppel in the United States, that if you make enough claims to if you basically have ensured the community that you're not going to do something, you go back on it, and it comes at someone's financial loss, you can be sued. There's a lot of people that say, well, there's enough people on both sides that say, well, you can't go back on the reserve list now because it will come at too big of a financial disadvantage to people, or a financial loss. And then there are some people that, like, if the judge if you go to the court with the judge, they'll just throw it out so Wizards can do whatever they want. But fact of the matter is, in my opinion, that this is all nonsense. You, as a company, from the company's perspective, you take a big risk of going to court. Simple as that. You have two choices. You can not reprint reserve list cards ever again, and you'll never have a problem in court. Or two, you could reprint it and take your chances. And a business never wants to take their chances. From the business's perspective, they don't want to take on very unnecessary risk, and this would be unnecessary risk. Even if 95% of lawyers out there would say that this is never going to go through at court, if they take it to the judge and the judge says, yeah, sure, go ahead with it, all of a sudden Wizards is screwed. So, like, there are even better solutions to the reserved list, like banning the cards. Like, for example, what's it called? Tolarian Academy is not the most even though it's ridiculously busted, is really not that expensive. in the grand scheme of things, I mean, that's definitely a card that is expensive just based on its collectability, not its playability. So a much better, elegant solution. Well, I don't know about elegant, but just a better solution is just to create formats that don't use reserve list cards, or just ban them outright, pending the format. Or you see, like in the Commander, Australian and Canadian Commander, they create a point system where you're capped on the number of reserve list cards you can play. But even if you don't have reserve list cards, you can grab very powerful cards that are not reserve list to utilize. So in my opinion, this is purely a legal problem, and a business does not want to add on any unnecessary risk whatsoever. From a business's perspective, they're just opening up a can of worms that, even if there's like a 5% chance of something going wrong, it could be catastrophic. Just I would love to hear what other people's thoughts are. I mean, I know everyone wants it to go, but there are, in my opinion, there are legal ramifications, even if a lot of legal authorities say, well, this is never going to fly in court. Just the chance of it happening is a big deal for a very big corporation. Even if there's only a 1% chance that Wizards of the Coast would get sued over killing the reserve list, it wouldn't be worth it. That's exactly the problem. That's exactly the problem, because the 1% of the time, and 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but when it happens, it will really screw you. And it's not even clear that Wizards would benefit from reprinting reserve list cards. People are like, oh, they can like now reprint Black Lotus for like $5,000. No, the new versions will be worthless because everyone knows that they can be reprinted to potentially infinite times. The only reason that the reserve list cards are so expensive is because there is this illusion that they're never getting reprinted. There's an illusion that there is a fixed supply of these cards out there. So that's why they're so ridiculously expensive. And the thing is, like, you can still play. I love Legacy. I would love to play again if the real life was... I would play it again if the real life was never... I think you meant to say it was a thing again. Because remember, you can still play Legacy online, and I think they're going to be pushing your ability to play those eternal formats, like on things like you can still play it on Magic the Gathering Online and MTG Arena. Oh, the reserve list. So I would love to play it again if the reserve list was never a thing. So I mean, there are some people who created. Well, again, yeah, if there was no reserve list, you could play Legacy, or you could play no reserve list Legacy. So there's this weird dynamic. A lot of people are like, oh, it's just easy. Just who cares? Who cares about the legal system? Who cares about the law? Corporations care. Oh, Chubby Meatball. Oh, no, don't you go. She's freaking out. She ran away. Damn it, I was going to share her with everybody. Reprinting the reserve list and getting sued for it would be interesting because it may force them to acknowledge the secondary market and therefore opening them to gambling restrictions with boosters. Oh yeah, that might that's something that also they may not want to do. I never actually thought about that. So but like the way they do it now is they reprint expensive cards because they are the most desirable, and then they like make they make the sets expensive because these are the most desirable cards, just because they're desirable, but they do it outside of the influence of the secondary market. It just so happens that the secondary market are very, very correlated with the reserve list cards at the moment. The problem with the plaintiff's position is actually showing the actual damages, but going to court is still going to court. You don't want to go to court, period. Like in Canada, I learned this in a law class not too long ago. You do get punished for frivolously taking someone to court. Like if you take them to court for no reason. But apparently in the United States, it's like a free roll. If I have any sort of reason, I can go sue you, and you know what? You're now going to lose up to millions of dollars if you're a corporation to defend yourself if you open the gates for other people to do it. So like and I'm sure people will. So anyway, that's my take. I think the lawsuit would not be the problem for the company. In business, it is risk analysis for estimated cost versus value created. They are more interested in their image and how it will affect events and such. You know what though? Like, I don't like how much value would it create? Like I am not sure how much value it would create in the future. Here's a big thing about the reserve list. Okay, let's say you want to abolish the reserve list. Does that imply that you have no good ideas for the future anymore? Like, I feel like that is the position that Wizards of the Coast would take. If they have completely run out of ideas, out of mechanics, and out of ways of innovating standard and new formats, that's actually a bad sign for Wizards of the Coast. That like, oh, we have no more ideas anymore. We have no idea what to do. Let's tap into like the value of the reserve list cards. So I think it also would show a bad sign. I should also say, like, I don't care what happens to the reserve list if the reserve list gets abolished. It doesn't matter. I would also say though, so like I don't care if the reserve gets abolished. Obviously, there are benefits. It might open the door for older formats. I think particularly when it comes to Legacy, people hold on too much to the glory days of Legacy when it was pretty balanced before the card pool got too powerful, because these days it's ridiculously powerful. I would say even as of like 3 years ago, I did not find Legacy nearly as fun as Modern because the decks play out so stupidly. But it would open the door to being able to play older formats and maybe new formats. Who knows what else? There is some value to the reserve list, though. It makes, how can I put it, the financial aspect to Magic does make it collectible. It makes it interesting. When people talk about like the Black Lotus, that is like $50,000, that gets people's attention. It gets like sort of a mystique to Magic the Gathering, that is something worth buying into and playing. So, and I do think that there actually is value in that. So there's value in both directions. I don't think if you go, in my opinion, it's a win-win either way. You keep the reserve list or you get rid of it. It just depends like what side you're on. I'm not too attached to it because I'm not super attached to Legacy, or at least particularly paper Legacy. And frankly, I don't care if there's a reprint of a Black Lotus or not. Keep the reserve list I just bought for Paradigm Shift. Yeah, they're testing it on Arena right now, but like we have Vintage and Legacy on Magic the Gathering Online, so we do have the Eternal formats. We definitely have the Eternal formats anyway in digital form. So we have some people that think, hey, I don't think it will ever be abolished, but it's a dumb thing that it's a dumb thing they did, and I bet they regret it. They definitely do regret it, because that's why once they hit Mercadian Masks, the reserve list didn't exist. Wouldn't that be interesting? Would anyone be interested in like, I don't know, Legacy 2.0 that is like Masks block forward? Because that's when they stopped with the reserve list. You know, basically everything below that is banned. Or that everything below that is like classic Legacy. Look at this. TBCP. Watching a random video on the Black Lotus card is what got me into Magic, along with a friend who offered to teach me. We play kitchen table once a week, and it's great. So, like, the fact that some of these cards have blown up, it gets the attention of the world. That's hard to do. It's hard to get in the news just randomly. And, you know, Vintage. No, it wouldn't be Vintage. Masks block forward. That's after this Urza Saga. Everything else is, like, basically banned. Vintage is everything. So like yeah, like the fact that like, and the Black Lotus every so often is in the news, and that gets like world attention. That's very difficult to do. Like, is Pokemon doing that? Is like Yu-Gi-Oh doing that? I don't think so. Black Lotus is going to be able to do that and will continue to do that into the future. And if you like I understand the original Black Lotus still might be worth something compared to the reprint, but I actually don't think it can go to catastrophic high. I don't know if it can go to catastrophic high value, high levels of like, it won't go to $1 million. I don't know. Maybe it will go to $1 million. I'm not sure. I don't know how much the OG really matters when, in theory, people know that it can get reprinted for eternity. Masks block forward would be dope or terrible. Either way, I want to play it. And some people take the position that if the Chinese fakes are good enough, it could kill tournaments. I'm not sure about that. I think like like you're already getting deck tech for fakes, so like the fakes need to be identical, and right now I think the fakes have hit a plateau, and other people say, oh, the fakes are going to be so good enough it replaces the cards. They got good enough that you can't tell if they're fake in a sleeve, double sleeved across the table from you, but if you knowing, everyone can tell if you're like holding onto the card, and the judges are looking for fakes now. You get game losses from playing with fake cards, and then you have to replace them with basic lands for the rest of the tournament. Okay, this is a great argument that the originals are still valuable. Alpha Birds of Paradise is $4,000. Latest is $7. Alpha does matter to people. There are a lot of cards like this. I could even say the same thing about like Lord of Atlantis. So the OGs, they do matter. They're way more expensive. Even basic lands have a pretty hefty price attached to them. I mean, you can get basic lands from anywhere. So OG alpha and beta, they do matter to people. They are collectible. So this is a very good argument for that. Like, you know, the OG Black Lotus will still retain value even if they reprinted a new or infinite Black Lotuses with the most disgusting art. Same thing with like I think Mana Vault. Don't think Mana Vault is not reserve list, but like the original Mana Vault. So here's Mana Vault today. And I believe Mana Vault today is Ultimate Masters $63. But if we look at like beta, I want to see all the prices. View all prints. No, I want to see. Okay, can we see the price of this one? This is alpha. Okay, alpha. 1,000 in euros. We don't even know what the price is in US. $1,122 for the alpha Mana Vault. Insane. OG does matter. I take back anything I said about the price of OG never going up or being capped. No one is ever shuffling up a high grade Black Lotus for F&M. Well, the highest grade maybe not. I would shuffle one up if it was anything below 9. I'm going to play with my damn cards, damn it. Alpha Lord of Atlantis, 1,049 USD on MTG stocks. That's disgusting. Well, goodbye, Lord of Atlantis. Okay, if there's any other question. Okay, right now is a good time. We can go into deck list review. We had some great discussions about the reserve list. Let's go to deck list review. If you want your deck reviewed, go exclamation point deck review, no space, then go space. You put the URL of your deck plus add any comments. Please tell me what the format is and if it's a budget deck or not. Really helps me give some feedback. And you will be eligible at random to getting selected for deck list review. So while that happens, we can probably answer a few more questions. Remember, exclamation point deck review, space, put the URL and any comments. Really helps me out. Reserve list. Always like, so it's like, from my perspective, and I go to business school, they want to reduce as much risk as possible. And I don't think corporations want to take that risk. Like, I think there's more risk attached to it than I want. The corporations have way less money than you would think. They are spending a lot of money on all sorts of crap, and the last thing that they need to spend it on are on lawsuits. That's my take. Bench Summer says, I know your favorite color is blue. I main deck Death Shadow, or I main deck DS and playing Tail's End. I don't know what DS is. And Lazatep plating instead of Veil, which I think is less impactful at the moment in Moto. What do you think about the two blue cards? Well, we talked about Tail's End in another. Is DS disrupting Shoal? I don't know. So anyway, we talked about a little bit about Tail's End in another Coffee and MTG. And fact of the matter is 2 blue is just a little bit too much, I think, for a stifle effect that doesn't do anything else, or is not that flexible. I don't mind Nimble Obstructionist. And same thing with Lazatep plating. Would just rather just play a regular counterspell at that rate. Like, if you're going to spend 2 mana on like a counter, just play a counterspell. Like Negate might be better overall. Niels Nielsen says, I just sold my Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, and I'm considering selling my modern era cards that has not seen any reprints yet. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think Ulamog will see a reprint? You know what the thing is, it's impossible to tell when Ulamog will see a reprint. The main question I would have for you is, are you playing with the card? That's my main question. I don't mind selling cards. I sell cards myself. And the question comes down to, like, do I play with this? And if the answer is no, I will sell it. Because if you think that the price is pretty high, and make no mistake, like every single card will get reprinted in the long run. And if you think the price is like a pretty good price to sell, I would sell it. and feel pretty confident about it. But if you use the card to any capacity, like if you're a Tron player, don't sell the cards that you use. That's my rule. I'm not selling anything from my Merfolk collection. I'm not selling Chalice of the Void. I'm not selling Cavern of Souls or any of that other stuff. Ether Vial, I'm never selling those because I need them to play. If I sell them now and then a set later, all of a sudden they print something for Merfolk and like Cavern of Souls is absolutely necessary for Simic or something like that, and now I need Cavern of Souls badly, and now it's at a higher price point, I'm going to regret it. I do not sell cards that I use. I do not mind, however, selling. If you think that the price is good and you think it's going to go down with a reprint, go for it. You can sell the card, in my opinion, but don't sell it if you use it to any capacity. And Daedalus Streaming says, Mana Traders is amazing. You're the reason I upgraded from free tier, even though I couldn't use the coupon at that point. Really? You couldn't use the coupon? That really sucks. I should ask Mana Traders about that. I think you should be able to use the coupon even if you sign up for free. Or did you sign up? Have you been using free for like a very, very long time? Maybe there's a certain point. That is very disappointing to hear that you cannot use the coupon. I'm going to ask about that. Because I think you should be allowed to sign up for free, but then use the coupon afterwards. That should be allowed in any case. Okay, I think enough people have submitted deck lists, so let's go check them out. Saw a really good question. Corporations, we don't want risks. Also, corporations, we just won't tell anyone these baby toys are made of poison. It's very true. So basically, if you have a lot to, if you're a corporation that has a lot to lose, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say corporations are perfect. They screw up all over the place. Ideally, they want to avoid risks. Oops. Deck review. Pick. All right, we've got Mr. Thul's decklist has been chosen. Budget rogues. Okay, we got to speed up deck review because I actually don't have that much time today. Rogues are cheap and modern. That's interesting. So we got Shadow, Ally Denizen. This is like the millionth rogue deck that we've had today. That's very interesting. Thieves Guild Enforcer, Ink Fathom Infiltrator. Cannot be blocked. So what did we say last time about rogues? Undercity Informer, Marsh, Flitter. Enters the battlefield, put two 1/1 Black Goblin rogues onto the battlefield. Sacrifice a Goblin, Marsh, Flitter becomes 3/3 until end of turn. That's interesting. You sacrifice a Goblin, this thing gets bigger. And then Earwig Squad. Forever Young, put any number of target creature cards from your graveyard on top of your library, draw a card. I'm not a fan of these cards because you really need to put stuff in the graveyard. And what if you're doing well and this you just, well, I guess at the very least you can cantrip off of it. Grasp of Darkness. Target creature gets -4/-. Are you sure you can't do better than this? So I have nothing too much to say about the creatures, but I'm going to say it like it's a very weird choice. Is it a budget deck? It is budget. Is there like, is this really? Come on, people. Okay. Is there like a better, there's got to be better 2-mana removal spells. Name them. Start naming them. Like even, well, I don't want to say like Doomblade, because Doomblade is, destroy target non-black creature. And I actually think in the metagame that might not be good enough. Yeah, destroy target non-black creature, because this is there, what 2-mana removal spells are there? Exile target creature an opponent controls with converted mana cost 2 or less, and all other creatures that player reveals their hand and egg. That's not too bad. I don't mind Legion's End. Grasp of Darkness, though, I think there has to be something better. Cast down, eliminate, Fatal Push. Well, Fatal Push might be too expensive. This is a budget deck. Cast down. How much do you cost? It's got to be free, right? Destroy target non-legendary creature. Easy upgrade. Easy, 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 easy. 4 of in this deck. Maybe even Heartless. So we have eliminate. I like Cast Down. I mean, that's instant speed. Destroy target non-legendary creature. Most creatures are non-legendary. Eliminate. We've been through these. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 3 or less. Maybe not the best. Hold on. So what format is this? It's for modern. maybe not the best positioned right now. Maybe is fine for the sideboard. What is the sideboard here? Soul Guide Lantern, Damping Matrix, Sorcerer's Spyglass, Damping Sphere, Damping Matrix, Necromentia, Farika's Liberation, and Witch's Vengeance. So, like, this may not be the best position card because it doesn't help you. I don't know if it helps you enough against the, Red-Green Ponza or, like the chunkier decks of the format, like Eldrazi-tron and stuff like that. But I like the really, really like Cast Down. Very, very good. And there's also Heartless Act that has been mentioned. Destroy target creature with no counters on it. Absolutely. Yeah, this is a good one too. Okay, Eliminating Cast Down could go 50-50. So you can't... Legion End, okay. Sorcery Speed, okay. Not the great. Like, I can see this. And I would just take out Forever Young. I'm not really a fan of put creature cards back on top of your library. What is called the Death Roller? Return up to 2 creatures with total converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I'm also still not a fan of stuff like this, but maybe... Do you have some... Okay, Mr. Thule, do you have good synergy with reanimating stuff? Yeah, push is also expensive. It's not cheap. Fatal Push is... Or I guess it is cheap, saying $3 Canadian in paper at the moment. That is actually pretty cheap. But still, we want to go more budget. Look, the cost of the removal spells are like 3 cents, although Legion's End is pretty expensive. Because I'm not a fan of like bringing stuff back from the graveyard. You know what I like? Spending mana, putting more creatures on the battlefield. I would rather, instead of Forever Young and Call the Death Dweller, you increase the number of removal spells you have, and also play with more creatures. In my opinion, if you have enough... Well, Call of the Death Dweller does put it onto the battlefield, so that's not too bad. My deal is they need to be in the graveyard. What if you're up against a combo deck that doesn't put any creatures in your graveyard? Anyway, I'm not high on these sort of cards. And if you see, like, these cards see no play in Modern, and for good reason. Like, because they're pointless. You soak up a lot of... Like, it's situational. You need these things in the graveyard in order to enable them, whereas you might be just better off with a creature. Drown and Lock... Well, is Drown and Lock possible? This is a swamp deck. This is heavy on swamps. The only blue cards are hybrids. So anyway, I think you got to improve your removal. I'm not a fan of these cards, these Reanimator cards. I'd just replace it with more of the stuff that you're already doing to make it more consistent, because I actually think these cards make it less consistent. You depend on your opponent killing off some creatures and then you reanimate them back. I'm not a fan of that, especially if they're going on top of your library. Cloak and Dagger. Equip creature has +2/+0 in Shroud. Whenever a rogue creature comes into play, you may equip it. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind that. You know, you give the creature Hex, like you're giving it Shroud, which again actually has no synergy with this. Not a huge fan of these, to be honest. But whatever. I won't judge it too much. It does give creatures protection, so I would replace your removal spells with better removal spells, and I would just replace these Reanimator cards with more creatures that you're already using. Find out which ones are overperforming and add more to the deck. Don't reanimate them, just play them. All right, so thank you very much for submitting the list, Mr. Thule. So we're going to go do deck review pick. Congratulations, Pat B's deck list has been chosen. All right, so let's go check out Pat B's. I hope that was valuable, Mr. Thule. Mr. Thule is going to consider splashing blue because of Death Dweller, and then and add Drown in the Lock. Drown in the Lock is very good. It is a very good card. Daedalus Streaming just subscribed for 3 months in a row. Thank you very much, Daedalus Streaming. Thank you for supporting the wave, supporting the channel, supporting my podcasts we do every morning here. So thank you very much, Daedalus Streaming. All right, what is it? 4-color pod by Pat. Canadian Highlander. I don't know if I can review this. I'm sorry, I can't review any EDH decks because I really cannot give any feedback on it. And going through all like the entire list is like a nightmare. I just don't know. I don't play the format. I can accept some standard because we have enough people here. I think that play standard. I can accept Pioneer, Modern, and Legacy, but I can't accept EDH because I can't give any valuable feedback because there's like a million cards and it's really hard to tell like what you're missing. Time Walk. Oh yeah, it's Canadian Highlander, so because of the point system, you're allowed to play with Time Walk. So sorry about that. Sorry I couldn't be valuable to you. Pat. We're just gonna have to move on. Sorry about that, Pat B. Triple Pat. Every so often, someone submits a like commander deck, and I'm like, I don't know how much I can like actually give feedback on this thing. We have a Morophon deck. Morophon 5-color Merfolk Tribal. Oh my god. Athenback has lost their mind. Merfolk All-Stars mostly foiled out. All but the true name Nemesis. Holy crap, someone went all in on their invention. All right. Let's check this out. This is another commander deck. I can't review commander decks, so it's interesting, but you get to play with Morophon, so it's basically a merfolk. Other creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. It costs 5 less to cast, reduces the amount of spells of the chosen type you cast cost 5 less to cast. Anyway, sorry again. We got a lot of commander decks getting suggested today. Sorry about that, everyone. I can't review, but congratulations on the 5-color merfolk commander deck. It looks. I think it's cool. It's mostly blue from what I see. Some black. My God, what a list! What a list. Brachiosaurus's list has been chosen. Fiend Coco. All right. So Fiend Coco. We have Deathrite Shaman, Stitcher's Supplier, Fiend Artisan. Something very similar that we saw last time. Satyr Wayfinder. So a lot of graveyard synergy here. Dump stuff in the graveyard. Stitcher's Supplier and Satyr Wayfinder make a big Fiend Artisan. Remember, it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. Embodiment of. So is this an improvement over last time? Is this the same? I can't remember. Took a lot of your advice from last week. Need sideboard help. All right. So Brachiosaurus. What are you having problems with? That would be my question here. Where do you need help? What are you losing to? Because it's always very difficult to determine, what are the right sideboard cards if I don't know what you are losing to. Because like from a outside perspective, these are all fine cards. Although Massacre Girl does not get found with collected company, so a little bit of a nombo there. Not to say that you can't play with the card, but just something to keep in mind. So Mr. Thule, some Tempo Mage also may be working on something very similar to you. Brachiosaurus. Are you around? So if you need help with the sideboard, we have Pithing Needle, Abrupt Decay, right, but can E-Tutor with Artisan. So what decks are you losing to? What deck are you losing to? And this is Pioneer, correct? Yeah. Which, by the way, Pioneer is like a blown open new format. You're losing to Niv Mizzet. All right. So in that case, okay. So what can we suggest here for Niv Mizzet? And we all know that against Niv Mizzet, you ideally don't want the Niv Mizzet deck to like even cast Niv Mizzet or Bring to Light. Well, this is going to be tough because, okay, well, maybe not. You could take an aggro route. So maybe one thing is you need to have the right plan. And against something like Niv Mizzet, I would go really all in and aggro against them. Plague Crafter and his battlefield. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. That's a good card because you hit the hexproof creature with this. Each player who can't discards a card. That's fine too. Okay, so if one thing you could have, hand disruption. Oh, but you already have it. You have some Thoughtseizes here. You could use more then. Oh, what else can we need a Niels Nielsen says pack rat. Maybe that's fine. So Thoughtseize is a good direction, and maybe you need more hand disruption that can hit a Niv Mizzet and also a Bring to Light. And you know what? If you spend 2 mana on this, I don't think that it would be too bad. How many colors are you? Because if you hit the Niv Mizzet, and what's interesting, you have access to blue mana. I wonder if you could have a light blue splash. Also, Winota going wide can be rough. Well, you shouldn't have a problem with Winota because before they attack, you want to like Assassin's Trophy it. You just have the right removal spells for it. So before attacks, hit the Winota. Hopefully that's not a problem. Unmoored Ego, but there not like other ones mono? There might be a 4-mana mono black one where you just rip apart every single card of a certain name from their deck, and if you do that, I think that is definitely well worth it. What are they called though? Black cards, move all card with name from deck. Memorial of Genius. You gotta give me the actual names here, people. Yeah, I don't. Necromentia? Choose a card name other than basic land that search that target player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles their deck, creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token for each card exiled. Ugh. That might not be good enough. Because after you exile all the Niv Mizzets, which is what you want to do, you might get killed by like all their tokens. This is a possibility, but I don't want to go off of it too much. Unmoored Ego might be worth a very light splash in this deck. You can play it off of Deathrite Shaman. You might be able to find a blue land off of Satyr Wayfinder. I don't really want to splash. Well, you already have like a light splash already. Ugh. The best way is just to exile all of them from the deck. And they play 4 Niv Mizzet, right? But you have defense for the tokens when you make... Well, you sort of have defense. I mean, you can try to attack them, but still, giving them 8 power is nothing to sneeze at, to be honest. So my solution is investigate. So here's my feedback. Investigate. Oh, Lost Legacy. Okay, here we go. Name a non-artifact, non-land card. Search the target player's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the name and exile them. That player shuffles his or her library, then draws a card for each card exiled from hand this way. This is the card. This is your Niv Mizzet card. You can even bring this in against Winota decks, probably, because all you have to do is name Winota, and then boom, they can't do anything else. This is what I was talking about. This is the card. And it basically, it's like a Vendilion click for the hand, but this is the card. Name Niv Mizzet. All right, your deck just is basically a pile of removal spells, and you cannot really go off too badly with it. Lost Legacy is your answer, and I think is a pretty decent answer that you could bring in against Winota as well, so long as you can cast Lost Legacy before Winota enters the battlefield. So Lost Legacy is your answer. There's the creature one from Origins too. So whatever it is, so long as you exile all these cards, because that's what Niv Mizzet is weak to. It's weak to that sort of effect. Because it's sort of all in on Niv Mizzet, right? Like, sure, it might have some other backup plan, but for the most part, if you can't, like, bring to light a Niv Mizzet into play or play Niv Mizzet, period, the deck does nothing. It's just a pile of removal spells. So anyway, I think Lost Legacy is where you want to be, or anything similar to that effect. That's what you got to have in your sideboard. All right. I hope that was valuable to everyone who participated. So thank you very much. That is it for Coffee and MTG today. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had, and also the decks that were submitted. I hope that was valuable to everybody who was watching. And even if you didn't play the decks, I hope you learned something about what you could do with what cards are available for your deck that when you're building it for your format. So I'd love to, again, thank everyone who showed up today. This has been Nikachu, Merfolk Master, here for Coffee and MTG, and I will see all of you at the next cup. Take care. See you next time.